I'm like never been an actor that, a go-to guy for anything. I'm never the first choice for anybody. Every time I've gotten cast and I've made I don't know how many films, but 80 films, I'm never the first guy. It's always an accident how I end up in the thing. No, I mean, really,
I meant, our heart's breaking here.
But you know what I'm saying? It's not my choice. Any actor that tells you they choose their roles is kind of full of shit. It's always a mixture of things, I think.
Yes, I agree. I think you're right. I think it's never that clean. What about filmmakers who are not actors? This is a common thing talked about in training, that to understand an actor, one needs to have acted.
I don't.
You think that's overrated?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, the filmmakers are a testament to that, from Scorsese, Lynch, and all these guys.
It's not specific to Scorsese, but a lot of those guys don't know shit about acting. Right. They don't, and they don't have to.
Hitchcock, there's a history of these filmmakers.
Well, he didn't want to know about acting, I think.
Right.
But no, what I mean, no shit about the process, and nor do I, because as far as I'm concerned, there's no uniformity to acting. Yeah. Everybody's different. Every film, every play. I'm a firm believer then. We always gloss over this idea that you have to. Part of your job is to make the appropriate process for the appropriate role, because your function is different. And the degree of collaboration is always different. I'm really struck that we don't talk about this more.
Right.
That there's no such thing as acting. There's no such thing as one thing.
Right.
You notice certain things that you kind of return to and feel comfortable with, or you find fertile. But I think you got to constantly abandon that. So I get nervous when a director thinks he knows about acting. No, I do.
I love that you said that. I think that's very...
I always remember, I don't know, this may be too obscure. Do any of you know a Greek director named Theo Angelopoulos? Okay. One time, he spoke very little. He speaks Greek, he speaks French, he speaks Italian. I would mostly speak to him in Italian, and at the time I worked with him, my Italian was okay, his was okay. So he would mostly show me things. He'd do the whole performance for me, which is something I like a lot.
Yeah.
You just copy the guy. But I'd copy him, and he'd say, boy, cammina così. And then the only thing he could say in English was, and then you cry. And I'd say, okay,
I got that.
Theo. And I'm not a waterworks. I mean, I'm there, but I'm not one of those guys that goes that comes, So
right.
And he only uses the 10-minute take. So there's no wind up. There's no help. There's no you got to be there.
Right.
And I said, okay, Theo. You cry. He was very insistent. And we're ready to do the climax, the biggest scene of the whole thing. And I've got to cry. And I'm in a perfect place. I feel loose. I'm there with the thing. I'm not thinking about my mother or anything. I'm really with the story, and I feel connected.
Right.
And even if I don't cry, I don't give a shit. I am going to cry because I'm connected. I feel in such a good place. I'm ready to go. And he goes, basically, everybody leave the room. Willem has to prepare. And I'm like, Theo! And they're all going out. And not only did I not I wanted to shoot right that second.
Right.
Plus, it puts more pressure because it seemed as if I said, I'm not ready. And so everybody was, oh, Willem, he really needs help. So then they kind of tipped, and it was terrible. So I prefer some guys say, okay, then you just do this. And I don't, kind of not care how you get there.
Right. Jack Nicholson once said that if he's working with a filmmaker whose vision is unlike his, he's more likely to go over to it because he wants to feel out of control as an actor. Is that a preferable feeling for you?
Yes, I mean, it's like they take the responsibility. It's their thing. If it's your thing, you have to think, what does it mean?
Right.
You have a stake in it. Also, there's this creeping kind of logic, and you want to show people what you think, you know? It's one of the reasons why I've never been able to. I have stories I want to put, but they complete themselves because I know them.
Yeah.
And I don't feel compelled to share them with people. Of course, when you put them on their feet, they become something else. But I have more fun taking someone else's and becoming them, because I can address impulses that I could never even imagine.
Right.
You know? It's like, it's the same thing with mask work, you know?
Yeah.
It's not your face.
Right.
It's not your face.
Right.
So you can really go deep and say, I'm not me, I'm someone else. It's very clear. You don't look like yourself, you don't feel like yourself, you're not going to be yourself.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if you could speak a little bit about your experience in Nosferatu.
Well, it was beautiful. That was a great opportunity, because not only was it something that, you know, I deeply had some sort of, I wasn't conscious of it, but a fantasy somewhere where I could really act out. But I had two things. I had a great model, because I had Max Schreck.
Yeah.
I could copy him.
Yeah.
I could start from copying the original Max Schreck.
Incredible.
And I looked so different that, yeah, it was a, you know, an actor likes, I like to disappear. And that was about as literal disappearing as you can do, you know?
Yeah.
Because you don't have to pay off anything. You can just do the stuff. And then stuff happens. And that's what we're here for, you know? It's all the stuff that you feel like you have to pay off or deal with that, to me, are like the restrictions. And a lot of those have to do with who we think we are, or what we think we have to do.
I think that's important.
You know, I mean, it's the thing about abandon, you know, everyone, you know, you got to have a sense of yourself, but at the same time, you got to free yourself from, you know, all the things that you think have to be. You know, I've got to do this because this is who I am. Every time you say, you know, I am this or I am that, you know, you're taking on another thing. I am this, or I'm the kind of guy that does this, or I'm the kind of guy that does this, or I really don't like this, or I love this, or I'm really good at this, or I'm not so good at that. That starts to weigh you down, and pretty soon someone says, walk from here to here, and you're like, well, I can, but you know, I'm the kind of guy that, yeah. No, I mean, that's, so you want to be free of that. You want to say, I'm not that guy that walked in this door. I'm Max Schreck, you know? So then, you know, when you walk, you're, all of a sudden, you know, you're Max Schreck. It's a very direct, for me.
Green Goblin, you wore this hugely affected thing. What was that like in a sentence or two?
Well,
I mean,
first of all, how dare anyone talk about that movie? The real meat was the father role.
yeah, well,
What are you, a kid?
no,
The other was window dressing.
I get that, but in the sense of what Raimi did, which maybe even PO'd a few fans, is
No, the
you
mask,
were present.
inflexible.
Yes, you were present in that. Mask.
There was. Listen, I like that movie, and I like Sam Raimi a lot. There was a little difficulty of they wanted this kind of suit, but it wasn't very flexible,
Right.
and we didn't have, because it's all tied into the glider and all that.
Yeah.
We didn't have a good kind of movement for him.
Yeah.
He was kind of like a brute. There's nothing else he could do, because Spider-Man's the acrobatic one.
Right.
So I couldn't be the acrobatic one. I had to be more kind of force.
Right,
and with that kind of, you know, Power Ranger thing, you know, you know, deal with it. So all I had to do is, you know, do a gestural language sometime that would convey things. I was conscious of that.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you ever got frustrated with the character that you were working on, or do you feel
All the time.
all the time? Exactly. I
Always.
answered it as.
Yeah, always frustrated. You know, yeah, all the time. I mean, some happen easier than, but no, all the time. Actually, never. No, I mean, all the time, in fact, in the respect that, no, not frustrated with the character, because I don't know what the character is. I get frustrated with certain limitations you may sometimes feel, or you may feel like, sometimes you just feel flat.
Yeah.
You don't know how to, up the engagement, to find the discovery and make it, mean something, make it personal and make it burn rather than just be kind of serviceable. But then also there's the argument, if you're always, struggling to make a certain thing happen, nothing will happen. So,
if something is not working, how do you find a way to get around it? Make it kind of work for yourself.
I don't know. I can't. I can't remember who it was, and I wanted to remember so much. It's a famous quote, so maybe you know it. It's a famous story. One of the big noir writers, or like Dashiell Hammett or someone like that, said every time he gets stuck, he has a man come to the door with a gun. And it's beautiful because he's got to deal with it. So I think when you get stuck, you've got to blow something out or give yourself even a bigger problem. And then you can go back, and then you can rewrite and have the man not come in the door, and you'll be back on track. So I think if you get stuck, the biggest problem is to get unstuck by sometimes making another problem or opening up another front in the war to figure out where the hell you are.